back in our Nike days, we always joked that answering the question, "How many red shoes did we sell yesterday?" is a very difficult question to answer. And that's for 2 like, for most shoe nerds, right? Like, that seems simple, but, like, the definition of red for an enterprise of Nike's scale is actually a very hard problem to solve for an LLM that may not have the context of how you're actually storing your data. Like, you might be storing your data for a particular SKU with Pantone codes, and an LLM doesn't necessarily know whether you consider, burgundy to be a class of red, right? And
Yeah.
how you go about kind of asking these questions, like if you're an analyst and an executive were to ask you, like, get me all the red shoes from yesterday, um, you would probably ask a follow-up question like, what is yesterday? Are we talking about China time or are we talking about New York time, right? Like, and those answers are going to be very different. And when you look about that particular problem and you try to truly solve it, it's about bringing in the metadata and the context about the data into the LLM, and that's a very, very difficult problem in of itself. And that's where things like MCPs, things like different enterprise integration layers are so critically important to solving this problem. Whereas they're not really that important or as important when you're talking about general purpose programming. If you're just writing an API for like a generic CRUD API for a database that you own, you just need the context of that single database and what API you're writing. You don't necessarily need to understand the concept of Pantone colors when someone is asking for the question, get me all the red shoes. Um, and so that's where there's a huge delta between what's accessible today to LLMs and what is actually required to answer these questions and why a simple kind of query to SQL system is actually very hard to build.